Hi, I'm Rory from Galway Atlantaquaria. Welcome to our show today, Ocean Challenges and Actions. Our ocean is an amazing part of our planet. It is home to millions of animals that live within it. So it provides us with oxygen, water, food, new materials and medicines. But our ocean is under threat and we must work together to turn the tide on these negative actions. Scientists are working hard to develop new technologies that will help monitor our oceans. So communities and individuals are using their time and passion to monitor the coastal species. In this workshop, we are going to meet some amazing scientists who are working together to monitor our oceans from sea to sky. So let's start under the waves, and we're going to meet Josephine Kelly, who worked with the Marine Institute on collecting data from all across Ireland's oceans. Hi Josephine, I'd like to ask you how you collect some of your data from the ocean.
Sure, Rory, no problem. In Ireland, scientists collect data from the ocean in a number of ways. Here in Galway, some examples are the Celtic Explorer, weather buoys, Argo floats and the Galway Bay Observatory.
The Galway Bay Observatory, what is it?
The Galway Bay Observatory is Ireland's national marine research and testing facility and the only cabled observatory in the country. It's a fibre optic cable which allows for data transfer between the instruments and the sensors, so we can access the data through a live feed 24 hours a day.
That sounds amazing, Josephine. Can only scientists access these images and data, or can we look at this at home or in a classroom?
No, that's the best bit. You can access it from anywhere, home or school. There's a live feed available via the Smart Bay website. You can access all the same information that scientists can.
That's great. What do you do with the data you collect?
It can be used for all sorts of things like measuring oxygen in the water, tracking the tides, wave height during storms. We can use the data to track marine species, and we've seen everything from fish, seals, crabs, squid and even birds as far as 25 metres below water.
That's great. We're going to share a link at the end of this video. Next, we're off to see Dave on the shoreline to see how we could collect some data of our own. Hi Dave, thank you for joining me on the shore today. First thing I'd like to ask you is a little bit about citizen science and how people across Ireland can get involved.
Yeah, well, citizen science is basically the public getting involved in collecting information, or we call it data, on marine species in our case, and working alongside professional researchers to do that. So for example, Explore Your Shore, which is the project I'm involved in, is run by the National Biodiversity Data Centre and is funded by the EPA, and it's been set up to collect information on marine plants and animals. So what we're asking for is everybody out there to get involved, whether you're an individual or a school or a family group, whatever you're doing on the shore, you can get involved in collecting records of marine species. We have a number of surveys. We have surveys like the Rocky Shore Safari, which focuses on collecting marine plant and animal records from our rocky shores and rock pools. And we also have the Big Beach Biodiversity Survey, which does the same thing except on the beach. And both of those surveys are timed surveys, but not everyone has the time to do timed surveys. So we also have a survey called Seashore Spotter, where no matter what you're doing on the shore, whether you're out walking the dog or you're surfing or you're sunbathing, not in this weather perhaps, you can collect records of marine plant and animal species. We just ask you to take a photo and then submit those records using our app, the Biodiversity app, or via our website at exploreyourshore.ie.
With regards to marine litter, do you guys get involved in any cleanups or record any data on the litter we find on our shores?
Well, we are lucky enough to work with a number of really active groups who are involved in marine litter recording. So groups like Clean Coasts and Coast Watch are out there year-round collecting information on not just marine litter but also marine pollution. And they record that as well as recording information on marine plants and animals. And that provides a really useful data set. And of course, groups like Clean Coasts are also, and indeed Coastwatch, are also involved in taking direct action to clean up our shores, so that's great to see. Of course, marine litter doesn't just affect our coastline. Unfortunately, it also affects the sea and the seabed, so it's great to see groups like our local fishers working together with Fishing for Litter to not just record but also collect marine litter out at sea.
So do you feel that lots of people are getting involved in marine litter cleanups since you started working with these groups?
I think so. I mean, as I work my way around the coast doing Explore Your Shore workshops or getting involved in local groups, Clean Coast, for example, has been a huge and very useful partner because there's so many local groups active out there day in, day out, doing beach cleans on their local shore and on their rocky shores indeed. And they've an interest in marine plants and animals, which of course is our focus. And so it makes sense to marry those two up. So while they're out there doing the good stuff of keeping our shores clear of marine litter, they can also be recording marine wildlife as they go along.
That's brilliant, Dave. Thank you very much for coming in to us today, and thanks for talking to us.
You're welcome, and thanks for inviting me.
Next, we are going to reach for the stars and meet a lady who's using images from space to monitor our ocean, Catherine Jordan. So, hi Catherine, thanks for coming into the aquarium today. I'm just wondering how you monitor the oceans from space.
I use satellite technology to monitor the colour of our ocean. Funnily enough, it's not all just blue. There are loads of different colours that tell us about different processes that are going on in the ocean. In particular, a process that I would be very interested in are phytoplankton blooms that form out at sea and near the coast.
Okay, so first I'll ask you, what are phytoplankton?
Phytoplankton are tiny microscopic algae, just like little plants basically, that live in the sea. They have three very, very important roles in our marine environment and our planet in general. Are food for lots and lots of different things in the ocean. So first of all, they're the base of the food web. So they feed the tiny, tiny fish and the tiny plankton that live in our ocean. So this can be crab larvae, lobsters, little shellfish, little fish in general. Phytoplankton are their first food. So without phytoplankton, there would be no first food. They are actually the food for the biggest whales on the planet, the blue whale and the fin whale, and our biggest sharks on the planet. So our big whales and our big sharks actually are filter feeders, so they eat the plankton, and phytoplankton would be in amongst that. So food is one of the reasons it's important. The second one is they absorb carbon dioxide from the environment, something that everybody is familiar with at the moment. Because of climate change, there's lots and lots of carbon dioxide in the environment, and phytoplankton are very good at absorbing this, but unfortunately cannot absorb all of it. The final reason is phytoplankton actually produce oxygen that we breathe.
So the air we're breathing right now could be from phytoplankton?
A lot of the oxygen that's produced on the planet can come from the ocean or land, so the trees and plants on land. Scientists estimate over 50% of the oxygen that we breathe actually comes from the ocean. So it's another important reason to actually mind our ocean so we can actually live.
Okay, so going back to another one is, what is a bloom? What is an algae bloom?
You may have heard me say at the start, phytoplankton are microscopic. And what does this mean? It means we cannot see them with our eyes. We actually have to look under a microscope to see them. So some people may be thinking, how can we actually monitor these from space? So how can we see a phytoplankton bloom? But basically what happens at different times a year, depending on the conditions in the ocean. For example, in the springtime, just after the winter will have caused a lot of nutrients to be stirred up in the ocean. Springtime comes around and a little bit extra sunlight comes in there and a little bit extra heat. When those favourable conditions are in the ocean, phytoplankton love this and they thrive and they bloom. And when phytoplankton bloom, they can cover areas from hundreds of thousands of kilometres. This can be actually seen from satellites all the way in space.
Can these algal blooms be toxic to us, or has it knock-on effects on food production?
So the majority of blooms are good. That's a really good question because they produce food, they are food, they produce oxygen and they remove CO2 from the environment. They're really, really good. But there is a small minority of phytoplankton that are bad, I suppose. We call these harmful algae. So when they bloom, they're known as harmful algae blooms. And the reason these are bad is because some of these species can actually deplete the oxygen in the water. So they can actually remove the oxygen. And this can be very, very dangerous to all the animals living on the bottom of the seabed. They can actually completely remove the oxygen from the water. Another reason is they can release toxins into the water. And if shellfish eat these phytoplankton and we were to eat the shellfish, we could actually get very sick. So for these reasons, there's lots of monitoring programs going on with the Marine Institute and the Environmental Protection Agency They take samples all around the coast every single week. So it's very, very rare this would actually happen, that we would get sick. But using the type of technology that I'm researching, we're actually able to monitor when a bloom is forming at sea, and we can produce early warning methods. And we can actually tell the different types of algae out at sea based on their spectral signature, which is a very big word. But basically, it's just a unique identifier that each algae will reflect back a different type of colour of the green. Just like our fingers, we all have a fingerprint, which is unique to us. So if everyone watching this could each look at their own fingerprint and the person beside you, and you can actually see that they're different. Phytoplankton blooms all have different spectra that are different, so we can actually tell that one could potentially be harmful and give a warning.
Okay, so is there any way we can look up this data ourselves at home or in schools?
Yeah, so there's loads of resources online to look up phytoplankton blooms. Not just phytoplankton blooms, you can use satellite technology to monitor the temperature of our ocean. We can look at ships moving around the ocean, and a new type of technology that we're using is looking at plastics in the ocean. So there are loads of different things that you can do at school with your teacher or at home, and we'll put up some resources here at the end of this.
That's great. Thank you very much for coming into us today, Catherine.
Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much for watching all our videos today and joining along. I really hope you've learned something along the way, and we'd love to see you sometime in the aquarium.